Okay, so when you picture a pirate, what do you see? I bet it's a treasure chest, right? Jam full of gold coins, shiny jewels, all that stuff. It's the classic image. But what if I told you that the single most valuable treasure in a pirate's life wasn't something they buried, but something they ate?
So, let's just ask it straight up. What was a pirate's greatest treasure? I mean, forget the maps where X marks the spot for a minute. What was the one thing they actually needed day in and day out to survive on the high seas?
Well, the answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. It wasn't gold. It wasn't jewels. It was their food. Their real story isn't just about swashbuckling and plunder. It's an incredible story of survival, of desperation, and believe it or not, some serious culinary creativity. Their kitchen, that was their real treasure chest.
Now, to really get pirate food, we've got to rewind the clock. We need to go back to before they were even famous pirates. We need to meet the original masters of the Caribbean barbecue, the Buccaneers.
You know, the name Buccaneer itself, it actually comes from a cooking tool. The Taino people called their wooden smoking rack a bucan. So right from the very beginning, these guys were defined not by their ships or their flags, but by how they cooked their food.
Yeah, these early buccaneers weren't sailors at first. Not at all. They were hunters, drifters, and deserters living wild on islands like Hispaniola. They got really, really good at hunting wild pigs and cattle, and, this is the crucial part, preserving that meat on the boucan. That skill was literally their key to survival.
And don't go thinking this was just chewing on tough, smoky jerky. Just listen to this first-hand account from a priest who ate with them. He's talking about roasted bananas, meat boiled with pork fat, and everything came with sauces and chilies. I mean, that doesn't sound like just surviving, does it? That sounds like a meal with some serious flavor.
And get this, a pirate surgeon actually wrote down a recipe for their signature sauce. It was this powerful blend of pepper, lemon juice, and other spices they'd base the meat with. This tells us that long before they were famous pirates, they were basically wilderness chefs, and they were already obsessed with big, bold, spicy flavors.
But, life on a tropical island is one thing. What happens when these buccaneers take to the sea and become the pirates we all know and love? Well, the kitchen changes. A lot. Welcome to the grim reality of the ship's pantry. Life on a ship was just a logistical nightmare. Any fresh food you brought on board was gone in a few days. The water in the casks would go foul within a week. So that meant long journeys were fueled by the same boring rations, rock-hard biscuits, and heavily salted meat. Scurvy and starvation weren't just possibilities. They were basically constant companions on every single voyage.
So, facing all that, pirates needed a dish that could do it all. It had to be versatile, it had to use up every last scrap, and it had to be able to hide the flavor of ingredients that were, let's say, not so fresh anymore. Their brilliant solution was a legendary stew called salmagondis.
And this dish, it was the pirate philosophy in a bowl. Waste absolutely nothing. I mean, look at this list. A bowl of salmagondis was a total free-for-all. It could have anything and everything they had on board. Salted meat, turtle, eggs, whatever fruits or veggies were left, all tossed together with fat and a ton of spices. It was the ultimate pirate potluck.
But what happened when the barrels of salted meat were empty and the salmagondis pot was scraped clean? Well, that's when pirates had to get really creative. Their diet became a masterclass in desperate survival, hunting down anything the New World had to offer.
For them, the giant sea turtle was a miracle. Why? Because you could catch one, flip it on its back on the deck of your ship, and it would stay alive for weeks, sometimes months. This gave them a constant source of fresh meat and vitamins to fight off scurvy. The turtles were quite literally a living, walking, floating pantry.
And the menu just got weirder from there. They hunted manatees, what they called sea cows, and said the meat was fantastic. They even ate crocodiles, although apparently it had a pretty strong, musky taste. And yeah, even large rodents were on the menu. Basically, if it moved, it was dinner.
But what about when things got really bad? Like trapped during a siege or stranded on some deserted rock in the middle of the ocean. That's when the desperation really kicked in. The lines of what counted as food, they just completely disappeared. And yep, that meant even the rats scurrying around in the ship's hold.
And in the absolute most extreme cases, the historical records are clear. Pirates sometimes resorted to the ultimate taboo, cannibalism. It's a shocking thought, but it just hammers home how brutal their fight for survival really was. That greatest treasure, food,
was something they would do absolutely anything to get.
So let's recap. We've got tough, spoiled meat, boring rations, and really exotic, gamey animals. How in the world did they make any of that edible, let alone tasty? Well, they had a secret weapon, a single powerful ingredient that completely transformed their diet.
It was the chili pepper. This was the pirates' real gold. A good blast of heat could cover up the taste of meat that was going bad, it could tenderize tough cuts, and it could make the most boring meal in the world exciting. It was flavor, it was a preservative, and honestly, it was probably a huge morale booster, all in one little pepper.
And their love for chili wasn't just about, shaking some flakes into a stew. Nope. They developed some pretty sophisticated recipes, like this one for rugai, a spicy, tangy relish they picked up in the New World and made their own.
And just look at how it's made. You start with unripe fruit like a green papaya or mango and marinate it in salt water. Then you mash that up with onion and a bunch of chili peppers, a little dash of oil and lemon at the end. I mean, come on, this isn't just survival cooking, that's a balanced, complex condiment. You could probably find a version of this in a fancy food shop today.
And of course, their obsession with fire and spice made its way into their drinks. They created a concoction they called, and you can't make this up, the Flames of Hell. The recipe was simple. Grab your rum, throw in a ton of chili peppers, and just let it sit. It was a drink that was just as fierce as the people who drank it.
So it all comes full circle. That romantic image of a pirate guarding his gold, it only tells a tiny piece of the story. If you really want to understand their world, what they feared, how they innovated, how they survived day to day, you have to look right past the treasure chest and into the kitchen.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other huge parts of the story have we missed just by focusing on the big, flashy legends? What other secrets are hiding in the simple daily routines, the meals, the chores of some of history's most famous and feared characters?